Hey, it's Alze Calhoun with Coveted Consultant, and this video is a continuation of the conversation of what a mastermind group really is. So, quick backstory to catch you up. Last video, I talked about how I sent an email out to my group, to my list, about this new mastermind that I'm putting together, and I happened to speak with an existing client on the same day, and I was explaining this group to her, and she basically said to me that, Alze, what you're telling me now and what I read in your email are two different things. And so a light bulb went off for me that I did not do a good job of communicating what a mastermind group really is. And as I think about that more deeply, I think that in our industry, we don't really understand what a mastermind group really is. And so in this video, I want to tell you my personal experience of a bad mastermind group that I've been in and a good mastermind group that I've been in, and the fundamental differences between the two. So let me first tell you about the experience that wasn't so good. And the names have been changed to protect the innocent. I'm not interested in throwing anybody under the bus, but I do want to share a very real experience for me. So some years back, when I was first getting started in this business, I bought a program, and as part of that program, we were put in mastermind groups. So I think there were about 6 or 8 of us that were put in these groups together. And uh, so we're in the group, we're together, we're taking this training program, and a couple of things I saw happen immediately. Number one, not everybody in the group was actually tracking with the program. So I was reading the program, studying the program, executing on every step of it. I mean, I was executing, and not everybody in the group was executing. People were kind of getting stuck here or had excuses for this, and well, I got behind this week. I got to catch up. So as we're having these conversations, we can't talk about the latest module or the latest lesson because not everyone had read it, not everyone had done it. So that was one thing, that everybody wasn't on the same page, wasn't moving at the same pace. Another challenge I had was the group fundamentally lacked leadership. So we were all in the same mastermind group because we were all part of the same program. But the program was, it was sold by a guru, right? Like one of these kind of guru style programs. So there's only one guru, right? And that guru is not in a mastermind and is not leading any of these masterminds. So we were just individual students of this program, just put together and to kind of figure it out. And now, to be fair, I do appreciate the fact that I was in the group, because having a group is better than not having a group. But as we were going from week to week, there was no one taking assessment of where we were as a group. There was no one pushing the group forward. There was no one acknowledging the fast movers and kind of pushing along the ones who weren't moving as quickly. There wasn't anyone responsible for caring for the group. We were just together and just meeting. And so, it's novel at first while you're kind of getting together and meeting everybody. But once you get, 4 to 6 weeks into the experience, you're just meeting. There's no sense, there's no maturation process, and there's no one responsible for moving that along. Now, sometimes you get lucky and someone in the group understands the mastermind concept already, and they can kind of take that role and push you forward. But if you don't have anybody in the group who just already understood or already understands how to do this, you don't get maximum value. And I found myself a bit frustrated with that group because of what I'm describing. I've got better words to explain it now, but that's how I felt then. We weren't moving. And that's because everyone wasn't on the same page, and we didn't have leadership responsible for moving us forward. So now let me change the picture of the highest quality mastermind I've ever been in, and what has made it such a powerful learning experience for me. So I want to tell you about where I got my MBA from. I have an MBA degree from the University of Virginia's Darden Business School. And essentially the way that school teaches is in this mastermind framework, or this mastermind concept. Now, academically, it's called the Socratic Method. So that's kind of a different name and a different application in that world. But the fundamental experience is very, very similar. So let me paint this picture so you can fully appreciate it. So first of all, you've got a classroom that is not built in horizontal rows, right? So normally a class is horizontal rows with the teacher at the front, and everyone looks at the teacher. This classroom was built with stadium seating. So we actually were sitting up, right, with a teacher who was sitting kind of in the pit, right? So the teacher stood in the pit, and we were sitting in levels, and we kind of circled. There was a half circle around the teacher. Okay, so the environment was kind of built in that cocoon, if you will. That's the first. The second thing is that the teacher did not do the most talking in the room. So normally with the more lecture style method, the teacher does the majority of the talking, the teacher does the majority of the writing, and it's your job to pretty much write down what the teacher is writing on the boards, kind of copy what they write. You ask a question or two if you get confused, but that's the basic model. You write what the teacher writes. In this model, in this Socratic method, in this mastermind model, the teacher comes into the room and asks the first question. And typically the teacher calls someone out. So, hey, Johnny, what do you think about the homework you did last night? And so Johnny has to have an answer, fundamentally. Johnny has to have an answer when you're called on. So you're called on and Johnny begins the conversation. And so now hands begin to raise that are either disagreeing or agreeing with the stance or have some refinement on the stance that Johnny has just taken. And now we have conversation. That does not include the professor. The professor gets to sit back and watch as students have conversation. The only job that the teacher has is to facilitate that conversation. So the teacher calls people's names, basically, as hands go up. But that's their fundamental job, is to facilitate and keep the energy of that conversation moving. So here's the experience for the student, like me, when you're actually in that room. Number one, you had homework to do before you got in that room. That's kind of the toll you have to pay. In order to be in this room, you have to have done some homework, because you've got to come to this room with some insight already. You're not waiting for a teacher to tell you what to think or what to say. You've got to be prepared to offer something. So that's the first thing. You got to do some homework in advance. Otherwise, you don't have any value in that space. One. Two is when you raise your hand, you have to wait to be called on, right? Other students are speaking before you get a chance to speak. So now you have to listen. You have to be an active listener. You have to pay attention to what everybody else in the room is saying before the microphone gets to you, because what you offer has to be relevant to the existing conversation. You can't just say what you want to say. You have to actually make sure that what you say ties into what's already happening. Active listening. So you can't just go to sleep and just kind of throw your thoughts out. You got to be paying attention. So what happens here when you have the right people in the room is you got a really good conversation takes place with these informed opinions, these informed thoughts. So the teacher kind of takes digest of all the conversation that's happened so far and more or less kind of recaps what has happened in the conversation. And then the class gets to decide, given the summary, the conclusion of where we are, what decision, what direction, what step they want to take. So again, as a student, you have to do work on the front end. You've got to communicate in that room. And then at the end, you got another choice to make about what decision is most appropriate for you, given all the good conversation. A mastermind group most practically looks a lot like that. But my experience has been, and for the folks that I have talked to, been around, etc., that's not the mastermind experience that most people are receiving. Most people are receiving something closer to the first, where it's more or less just meetings. It's more or less just networking. And you meet some people, you talk shop a little bit, you learn a few hacks and tools. But when you look at your situation, is your situation better because you were in that group? Can you point to the specific steps you took as a result of being in that group? Can you point to how fast you move because you were in that group? And for most folks in their mastermind experience, that's just not the case. They just say they learned a few things. So my point in sharing this with you is that this is the perspective I'm bringing to the table in shaping this mastermind. We are moving forward. We are moving aggressively. We are thinking strategically. We are planning and executing. And then it's everyone's job in this group to do the homework beforehand. And by the way, you're going to set your own homework given your own plan. So it's everyone's job to do their homework, to bring that homework to the table so we can have a conversation about where everybody is and create a new mastermind and create a new collection of insight so we can pull from that collection of insight. So here are the details again. The enrollment deadline is February 22nd. That's this coming Monday. It's in a couple of days. It is coming up pretty quickly. There are only going to be 5 people in the group, and right now 1 spot is taken. So there are 4 spots that are left at this particular point in time. The cost is $400 a month, and you control your costs here. There's no commitment or anything like that. The whole idea of you being in the group is to get yourself out of the group. So if you need 6 weeks to be in the group, get some value, give some value, and move on and graduate, wonderful. If you need 6 months to be in the group, to give some value, get some value, and then graduate, that's fine. So the whole idea here, though, is for you not to get stuck in this group, is to move yourself out of the group as aggressively as appropriate for your situation. We're going to talk once a week live in a Skype or group format like this one, in a digital format. And there'll be a Facebook group for us to interact with along the way. So that's the structure. There are details on how to follow up. Basically, you're going to email me and let me know that you're interested. Email address is in the description box below. That's what's going on. And in the next video, we'll just talk a little bit more about what a mastermind group looks like in the healthiest way. Talk to you soon.